Everybody, welcome back to Ranch Dr. Uptown here. Do a little, I guess you'd call it cost comparison between the American Tactical FX Titan and the Rock Island Armory Compact. The guys at Bricktown were asking me what the difference was, because there is about $100 difference in the price point of the two. And so just by looking at them, initially, you really don't notice a whole lot of differences. I mean, obviously, in this case, we've got aftermarket grips and an aftermarket extended thumb safety on the Rock Island, which does not come standard. Those were added by me after the fact. But beyond that, it did come with checker grips, just similar to the ones on the American Tactical, and it came with a standard single-sided safety, just the same as the American Tactical. So really not a lot of difference there as far as it goes. Now, one thing you may or may not be able to notice just by looking is there is a small size difference between the two. The American Tactical is about a half an inch shorter than the Rock Island. The Rock Island is a 3.5 inch barrel, whereas the American Tactical is a 3.18 inch barrel. Another thing you may or may not notice right off the bat is the hammers. On the Rock Island, you've got just basically a skeletonized style hammer, and on the American Tactical you have basically what amounts to the traditional Colt Commander style hammer. A little bit more rounded with just a hole drilled through it instead of being completely hollowed out. They both do come with their own skeletonized type triggers. The Rock Islands, this one is polished up, but normally it would come black, whereas the American Tactical has a bead blasted trigger and 3-hole instead of the format that Rock Island's using. They both use a Novak style sight. However, if you look at the rear sight on the Rock Island, you'll notice that it's a milled sight with a standard ramp front sight. Both of them dovetailed in and no dots. Whereas with the American Tactical, you have a dot front sight, and again, a milled sight, just milled differently. However, you may or may not be able to see here, there are grooves to cut down on glare on the backside of the American Tactical's rear sight. Another very subtle thing that I noticed was in the magazine releases. The magazine release on the Rock Island is a bit closer into the frame. I would say probably maybe 3/16 out from the frame, whereas the American Tactical is ever so slightly further away from the frame. Not quite a quarter, but still protrudes out from the frame just slightly further, allowing a little bit better engagement. One of the other things I noticed that was different between the two of them was the finish on the Beaver Tail and the frame tangs. You'll notice on the Rock Island, it's very well done, relatively close gaps. However, they did go ahead and kind of round off the edges, whereas on the American Tactical, probably even closer tolerances, so much so that they didn't even have to round off the edges to give it a smooth, contoured fit. Now, this is kind of the classic rear view that you're so used to seeing on all the gun forums. You'll notice that the American Tactical is fit ever so slightly tighter than the Rock Island, but not by much. Beyond that, basically the finishes, they're both a Parkerized finish. The American Tactical might be just to the touch, just ever so slightly smoother, although it's very hard to tell the difference. One thing that the American Tactical does feature is it does feature the wider and angled grip serrations in the slide. Like I say, obviously I've had both of these apart, and as far as the internals are concerned, the parts are basically the same. They're MIM parts, which some people will have problems with that, other people don't. I've never had an issue with them. They hold up just as well as regular forged parts in my opinion. So really not a big issue. So I would say all in all, they're fairly comparable, and for no more of a difference in price points that there is, I can see why the American Tactical does have a slightly higher price point, just simply because it does appear to be ever so slightly more refined than the Rock Island. And it would be up to the end user to make that decision as to whether they wanted to worry about that or not as far as the money goes. But basically, all in all, very comparable pistols. Obviously, both of them should work just fine without any problem and give the standard everyday go out and shoot on the weekend shooter a full lifetime without issues. Now, the one thing with the American Tactical is it does carry only a 2-year warranty, whereas the Rock Island does have a lifetime warranty, and it's lifetime on the gun, not to the original owner. Whereas the American Tactical is a 2-year to the original owner warranty. That would be the biggest difference that I find between the two. So, for $100, the American Tactical, I would have to say, is a little bit better finished, finer finished pistol, but for functionality, I would say that they're very comparable to each other. Anyway, that's the American Tactical FX Titan in a 3.18 inch barrel, and the Rock Island Armory in a 3.5 inch barrel. The other thing with the American Tactical is it's in 45 ACP. This particular Rock Island that I have is in 9mm. I do have one also in 45, but besides the difference in caliber, the specs are the same, and they so I wanted to use the 9mm simply because it's a fully Parkerized versus a stainless steel frame. But that's the two pistols, comparison between the two of them. I hope you guys find this interesting. We'll talk to you later, and you have a good day.